Content editor. Content editor is where you edit these content steps, which are visible to player when the story comes to that point. And you access it by double clicking the step. And here I already have an object, but let's look at this editor in general. Top here, you can see the name of that step. Here are tools for editing objects. You have camera functions here in the center middle. Here is a play button that allows you to see the animations in the step. Close the editor, save all the changes you have made. Remember to do that and often. A compass that allows you to switch viewpoints. Inspector, open, close button right here. And version numbers. Timeline editor is bottom here. You can open up these side menus just by clicking on the name or on the arrow. And you have camera panning actions and then your object library here on the side. And in the center, obviously, is what you see is what you get tool, where you have your content that you're animating and building, and buttons and everything you want players to see will be here on this field. Now, content steps are used to either explaining things to players, usually one thing per content step, or you ask players to perform one task, or you ask players one question that they can answer. So it's one simple block step of your content. So saving content and exiting the editor. If you have not made any changes and you click close, it will close the editor automatically. Now, if you have made a change, let me move this meeple here, and I try to close, it brings up dialog. Are you sure you want to exit? You haven't saved. If I press quit, my changes will disappear, or I can stay in editor and save the content. Now, when you save the content, it always brings you to the camera view that is your the player camera view when they look at this. So if I move so I zoom out here and I click save, at the end of the save, it will bring me back to this view just to remind me that this is actually the camera angle that you saved. So that's why it might jump the camera when you save it, and the reason is it returns you to where your tutorial camera is, just to remind you. So here is the library where you can drag and drop items in from. And so these are all the objects that you have created in your Smart Object Explorer. And right now, all these objects are listed in alphabetical order. In the future, there will be categories that you can show just certain categories of objects. But right now, everything is there in one long list. All right, let's talk a bit more about cameras. Cameras are controlled here in the top center. There are some predetermined cameras that you can select from. This is the standard view. There's three-quarter view, which loses the perspective, so everything is always the same size, no matter how far they are from the camera. There's top-down 3D with perspective, and top-down 2D, which is without perspective. So when without perspective means orthographic view means that all the objects are always the same size, no matter how far they are from the viewer, so from the camera. And then I can jump into my tutorial camera, which I have set to be here. This allows me to set a custom camera angle. So for example, let me click here to take a side view of the objects. Now this is a side view with perspective. You can see when I zoom out, things go bigger and smaller depending how far I am. Well, if I click here in the middle to switch into an orthographic view, now you can see that I can zoom in and out. But these objects, let me try to grab it here. So now I'm moving this object forth and back towards the camera and away from the camera. And you can see that it doesn't seem to be moving at all. In reality it is, but because of this view angle now, it isn't. This is very useful, for example, here if I want to stack things on top of each other. That's where I use the orthographic camera most. Or sometimes I do buttons, for example, in top-down view, I use the orthographic view instead. But then for everything else, when I'm just using the 3D space, I'm using this view because the orthographic looks obviously a little bit weird because it doesn't have the perspective there at all. And then manipulating the camera here. So you saw me moving around already, but let's go through this. So with the mouse wheel, I can zoom in and out in the scene. With the, let me see, with the middle button, so the mouse wheel button, when I click it, I can move the scene around. And when I hold down Alt, I can then rotate my camera with the left mouse button. I can do some of these actions with this hand here as well. So if I select this pan camera tool, I can move the camera around and still zoom in with the mouse wheel, but I still need to click Alt to rotate the world. So just note, you don't actually ever need to use the pan camera, because with the middle mouse button you can move, zoom, and then by holding Alt and with the left mouse button you can rotate. Those are all the camera manipulation functions there are. When you select an object and click focus camera, it focuses the camera on that object. So now the center of the camera view is here, so no matter how I rotate the world, it's rotating around that object. If I focus on this cube here, same thing, now it's focused on the cube. Of course, if I then move my camera center point to somewhere else, then it's no longer focused there. So it just snaps the focus to that point. And once you find the correct camera angle that you want players to see, you click here, save tutorial camera, and now this is the angle where players will look this content in their when they're using Dized. And those are the basic functions of the content editor.